Another day is among us. Justin, how are you doing this morning?
Doing wonderful here in Electric Studio 2, enjoying my brand new Ioniq 5. Yeah, looking forward to talking about that today.
Thank you to everyone who tuned in for the first episode. I don't know about you, Justin. I was thrilled. Like, I think we have hit 500 views on that video on YouTube. We're going to be releasing and launching the podcast next Monday. So, in about 5 days from now, I guess. So, look out for that on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. But, Justin, 500 people tuned in for our first episode. That put a big smile on my face. And I saw the comments, man. Comment on these videos because you are active in there. You're engaging with everyone, which we really appreciate.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the viewer and listener questions. I've had several emailed to me also. Keep doing that, you guys, because we definitely want to be there to make EVs approachable for everyone, whether you're a nerd like me, I love those nerdy questions, or you're just kind of taking your first step into the EV space. I love those questions as well.
The other thing outside of email, just going to plug it really quick. Join yaa.com/community. We have an electric vehicles channel on our community forum. I'd love to see more things posted there as well because I'm trying to learn. I'm learning through the show. But if they go to your email inbox, I got to like snoop over your shoulder and you're at Studio 2, I'm at Studio 1. It's a little tricky. Anyway, Justin, let's talk about the first topic for today's show, which we tried to talk about in the first episode, but we need to talk about actually buying an electric vehicle and in this market, how the heck you can do it and get a fair price. Do you want to take some time, walk us through the process you went through for the Ioniq 5 that you bought, which PS was just named the World Car of the Year. So that's pretty damn cool. Whatever that is worth and means. But walk us through actually buying an electric vehicle and how to get a fair price.
Yeah, so by 2022, most of the talking heads in the industry, including Elon Musk himself, had thought that we'd reach price parity for EVs, which would mean that you could buy, a mid-level EV with 300 miles of range for the same price as a mid-level Chevrolet. And that would be the game-changing moment in EV adoption, right? Doesn't look like that's going to happen this year. Probably not next year. We'd be lucky if it happens this decade with how things are going,
Definitely.
supply chain issues and whatnot. But there can still be deals to be had if you play it smart and if you're patient and you're willing to do the research. It's sad that that's where we're at right now, but it's reality. If you're patient and you're willing to put in the work, I think you can find a good deal on just about any EV. Supply is limited, so that's one thing we're going to talk about is just how many Ioniq 5s are even out there right now. But if you do the research and speak to some dealers who have a great reputation, which, by the way, you can find out what experiences buyers are having at YAA Car Dealer Reviews. Make sure and check that out. You should have some success. So let me tell you how it went for me.
Yeah.
First, the Ioniq 5. It's an amazing vehicle, as you saw it. It's the World Car of the Year. I mean, who makes that decision? I don't know, but it is what it is.
It makes for a damn good press release, though. Like, let's be clear. World Car of the Year. That's pretty good.
And after driving it for 1,000 miles already, I can say that it's definitely more amazing than I thought it would be. And I already was expecting it to be pretty great, but it's amazing. And we'll also talk about its pitfalls too. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
So I was looking for an EV that got over 250 miles of range, rated by the EPA, because that's the standard here in the US, and still qualified for the federal EV tax credit, which you can also learn about on our site. It's currently $7,500 if you have that tax liability. Why does Tesla not qualify in 2022? It's because they've already sold over 200,000 vehicles. So GM also doesn't qualify for the same reason. Sorry, your flammable Chevy Bolt will not qualify for that subsidy. Combustible, yes. So I was narrowing down my search to crossover-sized vehicles under 50,000 starting, and then I was always willing to pay a little bit more for some better options. That still qualified for that tax credit.
Yeah.
What I ended up looking at was the Volkswagen ID4, Hyundai Ioniq 5, Ford Mustang Mach-E, Kia EV6, and that's about where I was at. I test drove some vehicles, looked at inventory and incoming allocations to the United States. And of course, Ford makes them. Actually, Ford makes the Mach-E in Mexico. I don't know if you knew that, but it's pretty interesting. So I decided that I really wanted the Ioniq 5. Why? It looks cool. The pricing was lower than I thought it would be when it was announced just a few months ago. You can get like a base Ioniq 5 for about $44,000. It's not cheap, but if we're talking about EVs in 2022, I mean, it's not the worst deal out there. And also the 2 years of free charging at Electrify America. That was a big incentive for me because I plan on visiting some family regionally and using that charging. I mean, I've plugged in 6 times already in the past few days, and I haven't paid a single dollar for it. So these different factors all drove me towards the Hyundai Ioniq 5. Now, let's talk about buying one, because this is where it gets silly. And I know this is not for everyone. So feel free to talk trash about my methods, but here we go. I love research. I have a background as a scientist, all kinds of research. That's what I do. And so I'm a spreadsheet kind of guy. And I bet a lot of viewers out there are also into spreadsheets, especially if you're an automotive nerd. I started to look at all of the different Hyundai dealers within like a 500-mile radius. And you probably won't want to look 500 miles away, maybe like 200 miles away. But that's what I did. And I started to see which dealers are advertising the Ioniq 5 on YAA Car Search. And what I found was a whole wide variety of price points. Some were claiming that they sold at MSRP. I was always skeptical. Some were saying from the outset, yeah, we charge $12,000 over MSRP. Well, thank you for being honest, because I just checked that off my list right away. Saved me some time. And what I ended up doing was on my spreadsheet, calling around and then finding out by talking to a real human, I think they were real humans, if there were any dealer add-ons, forced dealer add-ons, because I'm not cool with that unless it's something I actually want. And what about dealer markups? Because I did find that several Hyundai dealers said on their website that they were selling at MSRP, or maybe they didn't say that, but they just had the list price as MSRP. But as soon as I called and said, hey, I'm Justin, are you selling these Ioniq 5s at MSRP? Right away, they were like, no, we have a $6,000 add-on. And then I would be like, well, why wasn't that on your online pricing? So I'm glad I called. But there's another option for those of you out there who don't feel like sitting on the phone all day, and I totally respect that. It's internet sales teams. You can contact the internet sales team. That's a great solution. You can also text them, I'm sure, because then you have everything in writing. Hopefully they stay true to their word, even if it's in writing, but that definitely helps. Documentation is key in this process, especially if you're considering going hundreds of miles away to get the car that you love, which first of all is not something everyone should do, but I had the time for it and I decided to do it. So yeah. So I have some steps for the viewers out there who are thinking about how to find their Ioniq 5 at MSRP. I believe this is the route for success. How much are you willing to pay? Are you thinking of paying only at MSRP no matter what? Or maybe 2,000 over would be acceptable? Maybe even 5,000 over in today's market? Make that decision early on. How much are you willing to pay? And then also, how far are you willing to go? I totally understand that it's ridiculous to drive 500 miles, or I actually flew. I took a one-way flight, 500 miles, to pick up my car. That is ridiculous, but I did it for a car that I love. And honestly, I don't regret it. I'll be honest. I don't regret it. It's basically a spaceship. Remain organized. So create your own spreadsheet, and I'll even share with you the results that I had from my research here at the end of this show. Keep track of available inventory at that dealership. So ask them, so how many Ioniq 5s do you have right now? What trim do you want? So ask them what trim they have available. Maybe they do or don't have what you want. If you're picky about color, I'll be honest with you, it's going to be tough, because if you're lucky enough to find a dealer who does have incoming inventory that's not already spoken for, what are the chances it's going to be in the exact color you want? Maybe you'll get lucky, but if I were you, color should not be the priority in 2022. And then make sure you ask about if they sell out of state. This is something I had never thought of, because as we know, the auto market today is not what it was 3 years ago. I had never thought about buying a vehicle out of state, but I found that 1 out of 4 Hyundai dealers did not sell out of state. And I'm glad I asked. Saved me a lot of time and hassle. Keep track of all this information.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Justin, you gave me an idea. When we advance car dealer reviews, do they sell out of state needs to be one of the things that we're asking people so that we can list that on. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good idea because I was kind of shocked. I spoke to some great dealers in Pennsylvania who are like, "Yeah, we sell at MSRP, no add-ons." I was like, "Great. Can I place a deposit?" They said, "Yes." They said, "Where are you located?" One of them even said they noticed an accent. Do I have an accent, Zach? Do I have an
You do
accent?
not have it. No, no, not to me at least. No.
So they have ways of making sure that you're within their area of service. And I just kept track, and I ended up with a list of a whole bunch of dealers, most of them with $2,000 to $10,000 markups, and a few that were willing to sell at MSRP. Then, before you get your hopes up, let's say you found the dealer selling the Ioniq 5 you want at MSRP. You got it in writing. Ask them if they accept deposits, because if they don't, you're going to have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops that I didn't have to go through, such as showing up at a dealer on what is showing up at the dealership on the day that is supposed to be the day of arrival for your new car. You're gonna have to get there at like 6 in the morning, hope that nobody else showed up to buy it first. I had dealers telling me that that's what I would have to do to get their car at MSRP is show up on the day that it arrives and be the first one there. If you're going out of state, I don't recommend that. So hopefully you find a dealer like I did that accepts deposits. And then work outward, but be reasonable. If you don't want to go to North Dakota, but you're living in New York, don't be searching for dealers in North Dakota. Okay. If you're located on any of the coasts, you're most likely to have success for now because that's where Hyundai is sending most of the Ioniq 5s. But in the future, that's supposed to be in all 50 states. And then when you found the perfect deal, get everything in writing with the name of the salesperson and preferably even the sales manager on that document. Get a full worksheet, a full list, a full invoice before you make any travel plans. Now, Zach, I wanted to consult you about this. With your expertise and with Ray's expertise, is there any other steps here that possible buyers might want to take to make sure that they document their supposedly MSRP deal before heading out of town to buy it?
As I'm listening to you, I just feel like I'm looking at a younger version of my father. No, I mean you hit everything. You must have watched some of the how to buy factory order type videos that we put up. No, that's spot on. That's such good advice. And I know it's for the Ioniq 5, but it goes across the board. I mean, what you just described there is kind of the trials and tribulations to get a fair car deal right now, but especially for really hot EVs, you got to go through that process, or else you are going to pay thousands of dollars for air. And I wonder, and I see it's actually here from Mark. He's asking, maybe it's time for made to order EVs. Is that even possible? I don't know. Is anyone doing ordering? I guess maybe Ford must be doing. Go ahead.
So even Hyundai is doing it for the Ioniq 5, which, by the way, is it Hyundai or Hyundai? I listen to so
You
many.
say Hyundai, I say Hyundai.
I listen to so many international EV podcasts, and each country seems to say it differently. So I kind of just sprinkle it all out there. But anyways, even Hyundai takes orders. But let me tell you the fine print here, because I also
Huh.
considered going this route. I ended up having multiple dealers admit to me that even if I placed an order with them with a like $500 to $1,000 deposit, it did not guarantee that I would get that vehicle within any set amount of time. They ended up having to admit that to me. What this did was basically just put my name higher on the list so that once they had an allocation, they would give me a call. They cannot place a custom order for an Ioniq 5 in 2022. Maybe that'll change, but that's the reality. Interesting.
It's interesting seeing this comment here from the car deal guy. Are they not all just online now? I thought that was the point of EV, was to buy online and skip the dealer. And that is interesting. I mean, we talked a lot about on the YA channel the Ford Model E news and the fact that there are carve out laws in a bunch of different states to allow manufacturers to sell direct to consumer. But Hyundai, you're still going through the dealer. And hell, with Kia, that's been a huge problem. Remember, Kia and Hyundai sent out the memos. We had Memo Get In, feels like a couple months ago now, because dealers were adding so much markup to the vehicles that they were selling, the EVs that they were selling.
Yeah, so the Kia EV6, it's another great EV. It's based on the same EGMP platform. I don't know why they called it that. It's a global modular platform. But
Better than the
what's
Toyota name for their EV. Let's just be
oh,
very clear about
we're
that.
gonna talk about that here in a minute. So The eGMP platform, let me just dive into that for a quick minute. Why
Yeah.
is Hyundai Kia's platform so important? Because it's 800-volt architecture. 800-volt architecture is something that even Tesla does not currently have. It enables consistent, faster charging. So the fact that my vehicle only goes about 250 miles on a charge is not a problem in my eyes, because as I've shown over the past few days, at a public fast charger, I can fill up the battery in 20 to 25 minutes. If it's all the way empty, maybe 30 to 35 minutes. But that's not a huge inconvenience for me. I was going into the gas station and buying a snack and walking back out to the charger, and the car was just about done. So this architecture is definitely going to be a game changer. And I think that's going to be key to the success of EVs. Zach, you and I have talked about how battery supply constraints are really limiting the adoption of EVs. And what's a solution to that? You could justify making vehicles with lower ranges, 200, 250 miles, but find a way to make them charge faster. And of course, there's the infrastructure component. We need more chargers. Automakers are already committed to electrification. It's going to happen. There's over $500 billion going into this. What do we need to prepare for that? More chargers.
Yeah, 100%. That's a pretty good forward promote to the news from Honda that I want to touch on in just a second. However, I want to pull one thing up, and Justin and I are getting in a new flow. This is our first time doing a show together, and I'm going to pull on Justin what I do to my dad over on the Reigns Action on the YA channel all the time. You ready for this, Justin?
Yes, sir.
Did you see this on Cars and Bids? Let me reload it so maybe the image will show up.
Oh, Cars and Bids. I love Doug DeMuro.
Absolutely. A 2022 Rivian R1T went on for sale, no reserve. This just closed yesterday. $138,000. This puts into perspective like the steps that you were just talking about to get a fair deal. I don't want to say that you could turn around and make money by selling your Ioniq 5, and I know that's not what you're here to do, but how insane is this? How insane is this?
It's insane. Now, I believe if you scroll down, there was a Hummer EV, and it might be the one that just sold for 250,000.
Yeah, I really don't want to talk about
That's
that
way
because
more
that
money than
Hummer
my
EV
house.
is just stupid. There's actually one for sale right now. Here, I'll share this again on the screen. It's insane. Like these numbers are truly insane. Let me pull it up on the screen. There's one for sale right now.
You need to get a mortgage
6
on
days
that car.
left. 6 days left. $155,000.
It looks like a toy.
It looks like a mistake, is what I think you meant to say.
Yes, I like my Ioniq 5. I'm happy with it. One more thing I wanted to share about the Ioniq 5 before we head on to the
Please.
latest news is the dealers I did find along the East Coast that were selling at MSRP. So if you're a listener out there or a viewer, hopefully this information is useful. And no matter what your experience ends up being, if you follow through and buy an Ioniq 5 somewhere, please share your experience with others at YAA Car Dealer Reviews. We definitely want to help out the community, no matter what vehicle you're buying, EV, gas, plug-in, hydrogen, who knows? All right. So let me pull up my handy dandy spreadsheet. These are the ones that I found in my research along the East Coast. I purchased my limited Ioniq 5, the top trim, at Hyundai 112 on Long Island. Took a one-way flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Long Island, bought the car, and drove back home. They are proudly selling at MSRP with no add-ons. I even asked for an add-on. Isn't that crazy, Zach? I asked. I said, please, give me window tint. The front windows, there's no tint. And they said, sorry, we can't. I left the dealership with no add-ons. So sad. But and someone asked me last time, is it because you told them you work with YAA? No. If you go to their website, they sell all Hyundai vehicles at MSRP, not just the Ioniq 5. It's pretty crazy. They have a lot of success because they have such high sales volume. Other dealers I found. Annapolis Hyundai in Maryland is at MSRP, but they had inventory issues, as all dealers do, so you'd have to get on the list. Sport Durst Hyundai in North Carolina. As far as they told me, at MSRP, no markup, but they did tell me that that could change soon. Their pricing changes. So with all these dealers that I'm mentioning here, make sure you find out the latest information if you contact them. Checkered Flag, dealership. I don't know what state that was in, but it's somewhere on the East Coast. It was at MSRP. And Liberty in New Jersey, they were at MSRP, but they only sell to New Jersey residents.
One thing on Liberty I'll bring up, Ray and I, my dad and I, we just filmed a video that'll be coming out on the YAA channel talking about the car dealer reviews project. And we did 2 bad reviews, like 2 dealerships to stay away from, 1 dealership to go to, Liberty Subaru in New Jersey. A rave review from one of our community members talking about being treated fairly. So kudos to the Liberty group. And no, they do not sponsor any aspect of this. We take no dollar from any automaker, any auto group. And if you did want to buy us off, not an automaker. Like maybe, I don't know. If someone's going to buy, like, who makes Pop-Tarts? That company could buy me off, but no one else.
Pop-Tarts. And then
now you know my vice.
In Pennsylvania, there was also Blaze Hyundai somewhere in central Pennsylvania that sells at MSRP, but they had a long backlog with no incoming allocations. So make sure you ask all those questions. Is it at MSRP? Are there add-ons? Do you have any inventory now? What trims are they? Also, make sure you can get everything in writing if they do claim that, because some of them are quite misleading. And then see where it goes from there.
Question for you, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
Can we maybe make one of the first videos on the EV channel, not live stream, but like first videos be you walking through the guide? Maybe we post it on the YA website as well. I think a lot of people beyond people that just watch this episode or listen to this episode are going to get value out of that. So I'm planting a seed. I think you've hit the nail on the head. Let's make that a really valuable resource that more people can access.
That sounds wonderful. So should we head on to news, or do we have any questions out there about the Ioniq 5?
So many questions beyond just the Ioniq 5 as well. We'll hit a few of them. And then, yes, I want to talk Tesla and I want to talk Honda. And if we stretch over a little bit, I don't think it's the end of the world. It's not like we're busy. There's no noon show that goes on. It's all good. We've got here from Guy. He says, on a video, the car care nuts said that an EV or PHEV battery should not stand in your driveway fully charged unless you plan to use the car rapidly. Better to leave it at 80% and top it off when needed. Do you agree?
This is true. This is all about the battery cell chemistry. Now, there's an exception to this. Tesla. The new standard range Tesla is built on LFP batteries. I believe that stands for lithium iron phosphate batteries. What's special about this battery chemistry is that you can charge it to 100% without damaging the battery's longevity, at least according to the research they've done with that battery chemistry. So if you don't have an LFP battery in your EV, then this is totally true. I've been charging mine to 90% at home instead of 80% because I simply don't have many chargers near my home. I do know that more will be opening soon, and then I'll be charging to 80% simply because I want to extend the longevity of my battery.
Definitely. That makes a lot of sense. And then Igor had a question for you. I actually get pretty bad reviews from people I personally know who bought the Mustang EV. Does that claim hold water, Justin?
So there are two problems with the EV, the Mustang Mach-E. The main problem is the charging curve. It's not the fastest charging EV out there, especially if you're going to be spending over $60,000 once the inevitable dealer markup is included. Hopefully you can get a better deal. The other thing is that if you're looking for a comfortable family vehicle, because it's a crossover that just glides over the road, that's not how it handles. It has a very sports vehicle type suspension. And if that's your thing, great. I mean, it handles kind of like a Tesla Model Y, but my Ioniq 5 is much smoother. It just kind of glides over the bumps, and that's one thing I was looking for.
One more question here from the chat. Then we've got some news stories we have to hit. George says, talk for a minute here about charging at home. Could you explain what you're doing, your setup, things like that?
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up. So I currently have not installed a level 2 charger. A level 2 charger enables charging from empty to full in about 6 hours with the Ioniq 5. Now, that still sounds like a lot of time for most people, but remember, you're plugging this in at night when you go to bed. You just plug it in when you get home and you wake up with a full battery every day. That costs about $1,000 to install. Now, that investment could raise the value of your home, and it makes sense if you plan on sticking with EVs for the long term. But where I'm at right now, I just wanted to save some money. And for now, I'm just plugging it into the normal wall outlet in my garage. And overnight, I'm adding about 20% range to my battery. And why is that okay with me? Because I don't drive all that much every day. Most of my driving is in road trips. So I'll be using those Electrify America stations, but it hasn't been a problem for me just plugging in at home.
Definitely. And I also want to mention one of the things that I'm really proud of, the YAA extended warranty. If you buy the extended warranty that we sell, we actually cover at home charging installations. So, whatever infrastructure you install at your home, as long as it's professionally done, that's then covered by your vehicle extended warranty. And I don't think that's exclusive to YAA. I'm sure there are others that offer that as well. So, if you're getting an EV and you're potentially installing at home charging infrastructure, like that's a consideration. Just make sure it's warranted to make sure it's covered. All right. Let's switch gears. We've got two big news stories. We won't be able to hit all three that we had wanted to. Something tells me these shows are always going to run a little long. Let's talk Tesla here for just a second. I'll pull it up on the screen, Justin, and you can give us your 2 cents on it. Bear with me for one moment here. Is there a new Tesla coming out? A cheaper Model Y with bigger batteries coming soon?
Well, cheaper is in the eye of the beholder because, as you know, Zach, about 3 or 4 months ago, you could get the long range all wheel drive, fully decked out Model Y for 58,990. Now, that same vehicle costs 62,990 before destination, which is another 1,200. It's looking like Giga Austin, the new factory that Tesla has built, will be producing a standard range all wheel drive Model Y that gets about 275 miles of range. Here's the catch, though. It seems like they're getting ready for another round of price increases because the rumor has it that the pricing will be set at 59,990 or 60,000 for this lower range all-wheel drive Model Y. That's what the long range one was priced at just a few months ago. So something for people to consider, but keep in mind that Tesla does not qualify for the federal EV tax credit until Congress makes a change to that.
Which we anticipate. I mean, if last year was a foreshadow to what should happen this year, eventually there will be a revision to the EV tax credits. There was up to 12,500 that was proposed last year, and included in that bill that never made it part of the Build Back Better bill were EV tax credits for used vehicles as well, which was super interesting. Which would have been the first time we saw something like that. Now, the other big story, Justin, the other big story comes by way of Honda. This headline is catchy as can be, and it also is like entirely in juxtaposed by the face of reality, i.e., all the supply chain issues, infrastructure challenges. Honda to launch 30 EV models by 2030. They're one of the latest automakers to come out and say, "Hey, we're investing tens of billions of dollars to move towards electric vehicles."
Honda is far behind the curve, but they have some justification for that. They've always been great at hybrid powertrains and, of course, combustion. They've had some of the best reliability ratings for years. They've basically stuck to their guns with hybrids until now. And of course, I'm sure they'll continue to produce hybrids. But now that they see that the writing on the wall is very clear, they are going to make a rapid shift to EVs as quick as they can. And they're not doing it alone. Imagine this, you guys. They're partnering with GM of all automakers to
Did you see?
catch up.
Did you see Scotty Kilmer's video on this? I don't know if
Did
you
not.
caught it on that man and his clickbait. He gives me something to aspire for every time. It was like the thumbnail image was so captivating. It was like Honda and GM just merged. And it was like, no,
That's
they
not what
did.
happened. Nope.
That's not what happened, man.
Yeah, so Honda has a pretty big name for itself in Europe with their EVs. The Honda E, it's that cute little compact SUV, I think, that you pulled up on the image here a second ago. It's really nice looking, in my opinion, but it only gets about 150 miles of range. And they know that that would not suffice here in America and North America in general. So they have not brought that vehicle to the US, and it looks like the first Honda EV we'll be getting is the Prologue SUV in late 2023. That may be worth the wait because it's looking pretty awesome with long range, fast charging, and all the things that you expect from Honda. We'll see.
I'm super interested to see what the next 12, 24, 36 months look like, simply because we had the Black Book team on Monday back on the Ray and Zach channel, and been talking to other people in the industry, folks that work at rental car companies. Like, new car production is still going to be hampered throughout, like One of the big topics my dad and I are about to talk about on other shows, the fact that VW's CEO came out recently and said chip shortage, it's not going away in 2022. It's going to stick in 2023. It might even be here in 2024. The reason I bring that up is because I remember talking to David Chow, Automotive Press, and he talked about setting up these production lines. It's like you do it and then it's set for a few years. And it's really interesting to think we've got these big, ambitious, hey, by 2030, 30 EV vehicles. And it takes like 3 years in advance to set everything up. And then you're probably sourcing parts in advance of that. It's like, man, sometimes I think it's hard enough to just help people like navigate buying a car. Could you imagine right now, like navigating the transition from internal combustion engines to EVs amidst the supply chain? Like, it kind of just blows my mind, is I guess what I'm trying to communicate. And the fact that Honda's coming out and saying, all right, what was it? It was like $64 billion plus this partnership with GM. I mean, like, they're going for it.
Yeah, so just like GM said, they're going to be going combustion free by 2035. Either that means they're going to all EVs or they're going out of business. We'll see.
And if they do go out of business, they still want to be valued like Tesla. We have a question here in the chat. I want to pull this up as one of the last things that we hit on. Where was it? Kirk says, why no PHEV search filter on your site? I think we have hybrid search on the site. So we're going to share the screen. We're going to do this live together. Let's double check. Going to YAA, clicking on buying, waiting for it to load. If I'm not mistaken, is it under fuel and performance? I think it's under fuel and well, that was
It's
body.
under go scroll further down. It's under engine or no fuel
drivetrain. Not engine.
No. You would think we'd know.
Fuel and performance. There you go.
There it is.
If you want to just look at hybrids or if you just want to look at electric vehicles, it's under fuel and performance. Maybe we should make that a bit more apparent. I don't know. But you'll also then see the vehicles are tagged as hybrid or EV. So go ahead and play around with that. And of course, we have that nationwide search working, which I'm super proud of the team for bringing that to fruition. Lots of stuff that we have to work on, though, to make this even easier to buy an EV. And you know what? Your 5-step guide, I'm telling you, it's going to have Justin Fisher's head at the top of it. Justin Fisher 5-step guide. I think we need that on the website, man. You did an incredible job today walking us through how to get a fair deal on an Ioniq 5, but on an EV in general.
And whether you're listening live or checking this out later, feel free to send me an email at justin@joinyaa.com or join the community at YAA Community and let us know what you'd like to know about. Send me your questions. I've got a running list of all of your comments and questions so we can make sure and get there.
Please, please, please send the questions in. And again, resources, YAA Community, and on the YAA Community. If there are more questions and more engagement on this channel and on this show, it's time you stop saying EVs will break roads because of their weight. Interesting. So that'll be an interesting. Click on electric vehicles. There's 100 posts here in our EV channel. Come join the conversation. If this channel grows, if there's interest here, Justin, I think it's pretty obvious that you and I won't be doing a Monday, Wednesday, Friday show. We'll be doing a daily show, and we obviously see the need to likely create standalone video content as well. You are a wealth of knowledge. I'm learning from you each episode so far, and I see the chat. You know, it's coming in, Justin. So get your beauty sleep. I think you're going to be on camera a bit more often.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it.
Podcast dropping next Monday. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Join us on Friday. Who knows? Maybe we'll even have a special guest. How's that sound?
Sounds wonderful. We'll be answering lots of viewer questions Friday.
Sounds like a plan. All right, Justin, thanks so much. Also, cool shirt. It's kind of electric-y. I like it.
Thank you. I had a shirt just like this when I was like 8 years old, so that's why I bought it as a grown man, you know?
We're going to end on that.